Hey everybody, welcome once again to Manga Mondays, the only manga review show that is months ahead of itself in schedule. I'm Digibro, and I'm going to be talking about the first volume of Bloom Into You, which is a Yuri manga, rather obviously, that came out through Seven Seas, that I had low expectations for, but it actually exceeded them. It was pretty good. I enjoyed this. And I had low expectations because back in the late 2000s, Seven Seas was a publisher that I was following very fervently because of the fact that the two things that they were trying to do that no one else was really doing at the time was light novels and Yuri manga. Two of my favorite things at the time. But unfortunately, their light novels, most of them they stopped publishing because they weren't successful, and their Yuri manga mostly sucked. I bought the first volumes of Tetragrammaton Labyrinth, which was abysmal. The first two volumes of Venus vs. Virus, which I didn't end up liking. The first volume of Hayate Crossblade, which was stupid. So yeah, I didn't really end up liking most of the Yuri stuff they put out. So, but their Yuri was a lot more successful than their light novels, and they've kept up with doing Yuri. They're no longer releasing it under the Strawberry imprint that they used to have. There's no imprint at all on the back here, but it's a nice looking volume. It's very aesthetically pleasing, which is kind of why I gravitated towards it, aside from it being Yuri, and I was just like, you know what, let's give it a shot. Let's see a new Yuri manga. And I actually flipped through it first just to confirm that at least a kiss happened in Volume 1. That was my prerequisite. And it happens fairly early on, but I was like, I need to know that at the very least, this is not going to be some, like, vague Yuri. I don't want this to be something I have to wait 100 volumes to find out if it's actually Yuri. I need to know that there's going to be girls who are having some kind of relationship by the end of the first fucking volume, or else I'm not even getting involved. And, I wasn't entirely right about that, but what's interesting about this manga is that it's about this young girl who starts up high school at a new high school, and she has a run-in with the a prospective student council president. This girl who's her senpai, who she sees turning down some guy who's confessing to her. Now, the girl herself also recently was confessed to by a guy who she realized that she doesn't like. And she'd always fantasized about being confessed to. She's a big shoujo manga fan. She sits around dreaming of her starry, bright first love. But when she actually gets confessed to, it turns out that she doesn't feel anything from it. And so she sees this student council president girl turning someone down, and she tells her, I also have I've never felt any love from any of the people who've confessed to me. I've never felt anything. So they sort of form a connection based on the fact that neither of them has ever felt love for anyone. However, it may be that the reasons for them not having felt love are totally different, because student council president immediately falls in love with this girl. Now, the interesting part is that what it would suggest about this whole dynamic is that maybe neither one of them realized they were into women all along, That's what it seems to be suggesting, what you'd assume, but that's not really the case. That might be the case with President Girl, but she doesn't feel anything for President Girl either. She doesn't feel anything at all. And if anything, what ends up happening is that she becomes really jealous of the fact that the other girl has found love. Because she still wants to find love, and she thought that they had a connection in that neither of them could understand love, and they both wanted it. But now she has fallen head over heels for her, and she's having all the lovey-dovey experience towards her, but she feels none of it. Very interesting dynamic that I've never really seen before done this way, where the two of them are friends and they're working together because basically she ends up being the campaign manager for her attempt to become student council president. And so they're working closely together, and President Girl, is trying, she's full blown in love with her. She knows it. She's telling her, she's acting the way that someone acts around someone they're in love with, but the other girl doesn't feel it back. And as the story goes on, it's sort of like at first she's just kind of angry and jealous about it. Like, she's just bitter that she has to be, that this person she thought she could connect with, now she can't, and that person's hanging around her, almost rubbing it in her face that she's feeling these emotions that she doesn't get to feel. Which makes her mad. But then she's starting to become more and more curious about it, and sort of wanting to study almost the way that this other girl feels towards her and try to understand it better so maybe she can feel something like that herself. So yeah, it's an interesting story. It's a romance I've never really seen before. I'm curious to see where it goes. I will probably buy the second volume of this, which is surprising because I really thought that at $13 and this tiny little volume that I was gonna end up disappointed with this no matter what. But it was a pleasant surprise. The artwork is okay. It's very just normal looking, I guess. It's not quite realistic, not quite anime-ish. It's just not quite shoujo. I mean, this ran in Dengeki Daioh apparently, which is a shonen. It's where like I think Gunslinger Girl ran and a certain scientific railgun. So it's a surprisingly like down to earth and quaint Yuri story for being a not shoujo, or not like not published in like a Yuri magazine or anything like that. Like it feels more along the lines of like a Milk Morinaga kind of manga. But the art style to me feels very anime. Like the way that panels are laid out and the way that the character designs look and the fact that it uses a pretty good amount of shading and screen tone. Just the whole thing, like the way that panels are paced and stuff feels like if the anime adaptation of this happened, it could just copy the manga 1-to-1 and it would feel the way that I don't know how to explain that, because I mean a lot of anime is based on manga in the first place, but just something about it, the way that panels are composed has the same flow as an anime would have. Now, I have one major complaint about this particular publication, and I would encourage you to just read this story online if it's been translated. I don't know if it has. I mean, I'll probably keep buying the volumes even though this annoyed the shit out of me, but there is constant fucking intonation in the words. Like there's words that are bold or italicized all the time. Like they constantly tried to make it so there'd be emphasis on certain words, and it's really obnoxious because like it just doesn't flow with how I would read it. Like if I was reading the sentences in my own head, I would come up with my own intonation, I would come up with my own like voice acting in my mind. And the way that these are done, it feels like a bad dub. Like the way that the words that they choose to stress, it feels like the characters are talking as though they were bad dub actors. And it drives me fucking insane. I'm like, why did you have to do this? I could have done this in my own head. I don't need you to put emphasis on certain words. Like, oh my god, I find it so annoying. And like every time I picked up the book, like to read another chapter, I had forgotten that it does that, and I'd start reading and I'd be like, oh god, and then I have to like kind of get used to it and try to like look past it and not read it that way, because if you read it that way, it's so clumsy feeling. Like it's when they do that, it causes you to imagine the voices, in that way. Like you're gonna read the bold voices with more stress, which means you're basically concocting a voice acted version in your head. But whoever chose the intonations here was not a voice actor. Whoever did this is not someone who knows how to make stuff sound right, doesn't know what syllables to put stress on or what words to put stress on. It's really annoying. I hate when any manga that does that. I remember Yu Yu Hakusho doing that back in the day. I don't know if it was all of Shonen Jump or just that, but like I've seen it in certain manga and it's always annoying to me, and this one goes way overboard with it. It's like every single speech bubble. So yeah, if that seems like it would annoy you, maybe read this one online. If it doesn't seem like something that would annoy you at all, if you don't even care about that kind of thing, go ahead and pick up the volume. I mean, the artwork, it's nothing special. It can be a little bit wonky at times even, but it's worth it for the storyline. I think it was an interesting little kind of Yuri romance, like none I'd seen before. So yeah, I do recommend it if you like Yuri especially, and you want, and that relationship dynamic sounds interesting to you. Check it out.